Hey there friends and enemies, JoPa here again, and today I want to rank the 10 corrupted weapons currently in Remnant 2, as we did get 5 new ones recently, but we've had enough time to really play around with them, test them in different builds, and see how they perform, so I feel like we're at a good place to judge them. Plus, it is a good time in the game with a little bit of a lull until the next DLC to farm the weapons, either the corrupted versions, the corrupted shards, or the regular versions if you make one of them corrupted, because it will replace the original. So as far as my rankings, I have a couple things to keep in mind: how good it is, how fun it is, and also how good it is in comparison to its base version, because I do feel like that does matter. Now, first off, we have the Corrupted Savior. This is a lot of people's favorites currently in the game. For me, I think it's A to S tier. It probably could be S tier. I just don't enjoy it as much as some of the other options. I feel like while this is very reminiscent of the weapon we had in the original Remnant, it doesn't feel like it's one that stands out as much as I would like it to in comparison with some of the other more unique options. And so I think this is the one that a lot of people will push back for me, just because I enjoy this weapon quite a bit. I think it's very good, but I just don't enjoy running it as much as I do a lot of other options here. And I think there's a couple others I would put in S tier over this one, and that's why I'm going to rank it a little bit lower. Now we have the Rune Pistol, and this one I think is S tier, which is surprising. The base version of the Rune Pistol I don't think is very good. I also think that the corrupted version is so much better and so much more reliable. The mod that it has is fantastic for many different occasions. Yeah, it's not going to put out the highest DPS with its mod, but it's going to enhance your character to a degree that is almost unparalleled in the game, and so that's why I really like this one. I did underrate it when it first came out, but after using it quite a bit, after talking to people and seeing other folks and how I was supposed to be running it, I got much more comfortable, and I feel like it is one that I would definitely rock in the future. It is the perfect secondary support weapon in this type of game. Although there is some competition now that we got recently, and I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. Another weapon that I find to be insanely fun, but I know isn't quite as strong as some other options, is going to be the Corrupted Meridian. This is probably my favorite of all the weapons, just purely based on gameplay, explosion builds, all that kind of stuff. I really enjoy this one, and the change from the base Meridian is night and day. I hated the regular Meridian in this game. I still probably will never use it, but the corrupted version, I do have certain builds that I really enjoy running it, and so for me personally, I think this is fantastic. I might have considered putting it in S if it was just a little bit stronger, but I do feel like there's other better options, especially with the secondaries. And that's one of the hard things, is the secondaries got really good with these corrupted versions, and so that's where the decision making has to be really tough when I'm deciding what's SA and below tiers, because I don't feel like if I put 4 different options in S tier, it would really be fair for this list. That's just a personal feeling of mine. Now we have the Corrupted Deceit, and this one's pretty interesting. I do like it. I think it is pretty solid. I'm going to put this one in B tier. I do think it is a lot of fun. I think it has some interesting options with the way that you can send out the spinning blades. But for me, it's just not as good as some other options, and so when I'm using it, I just feel a little bit underwhelmed as far as the total output, and that's why I don't enjoy it as much as some others on this list. It is good. It is one that I would recommend chasing. All the ones that are B tier and above, I would definitely say that you should try to snag not only the base version if you want it, but definitely the corrupted version. For the Rune Pistol, I would say you only need corrupted. Meridian, only corrupted. For the Savior, and then for the Deceit, probably going to want both. And so that's going to make decisions a little bit harder for you. However, that's just my personal opinion. You may disagree. Now we're going to have the Corrupted Aphelion. And this one I'm actually going to put in C tier, just because I don't enjoy this one at all. I wanted it to be so much better with the explosion, the fire damage, the burning builds and stuff like that, but I just didn't really care for it. I know Other people might disagree with me, but for me, the Aphelion is solid. It is a fine weapon, the Corrupted Aphelion. I just don't enjoy either version of this weapon, and so I probably will never use it, and I don't really see it being a high tier option. Everyone above it, I think most people would agree, are better. So even if you would rank this in B tier instead, I don't know if it would go higher than anything that's already on my list. Now we're going to talk about the Corrupted Merciless. And this one is tough because I think this is fine as well, but I'm ranking this C tier, and the reason that I rank this one lower is specifically because I just enjoy, and I think the base Merciless is better. So there's really not a reason, unless you want to get a second one, unless you have this crafted and you're going to be doing the Ravager as well in order to get another copy anyway, so you want to have both and collect them. I don't see a reason to chase the Corrupted Merciless when the base version is very, very good. Now, some weapons, both can be good depending on your build, and I think the Corrupted Merciless can be built around pretty well. But for me, overall, it's just not as good as some of my other favorites on this list, and that's why it's going to drop down just a bit. Again, C tier is not bad. It's a solid weapon, and if it's your favorite, if you think it's more B tier, A tier, that's fine. It's just my personal preference. Now we're going to get into the Corrupted Arbalest. I love this weapon. I don't know if I think it's strong enough to be... It's definitely not S tier, and I don't think it's A tier if I'm just comparing it to the other weapons on that list. Although I could be tempted into moving this up for sure, just because I really enjoy using this. I think it's a ton of fun, and explosion builds have gotten insane with this thing. I have seen some crazy damage numbers. It's just not super consistent compared to some other options, and also when you're using it, it can just feel hit or miss depending on the bosses and the enemies that you're taking on. So that's why I don't really run it as often as I would some other options in that we have for the Corrupted version. So for me, the reason that I would say it possibly could be an A tier is also because I think the regular Arbalest is really not my thing. It's not very good. And so I would definitely say that the Corrupted version is an improvement on the base version of this weapon. So that's why I do think it is B verging on A tier, potentially, depending on where you would rank it. But I think it is pretty close. Now we're going to talk about the Corrupted Sorrow, which is, in my opinion, the best of the Corrupted versions in the game right now. The base Sorrow I don't think is all that great, although some of the recent changes have modified it just a little bit. But the Corrupted Sorrow is a game changer. This thing is phenomenal. If you're only going to chase one of these weapons, I would say Corrupted Sorrow should be number one. Rune Pistol should be right there as well, just because of the versatility, but Corrupted Sorrow is so very good that I would definitely say it's S tier, and it's one that everybody should be chasing to get ready for the next DLC because of how good it actually is. I am surprised, and it's funny because I was hoping the healing on it would be better. It's not. But that doesn't matter because of how powerful this thing actually is. And when I first saw this, I thought it was going to be extremely weak. And I was dead wrong in that regard. So anyway, now we have the Corrupted Nebula. And this is going to be one that it was bugged for a little bit. And I mentioned in another video that it would get fixed, the bug. And it did. And now I'm going to say this is unfortunately probably C tier. And while I don't think it's a bad weapon, I'm not going to say that, and I think some people will still like to use it. There are two reasons why I don't think it's higher than a C tier. One being that the base Nebula is one of my favorite weapons in the game for any kind of status effect build, and I love them. So I run the Corrupted Nebula a lot, and I think it's one of the better weapons in the game right now. And then two, I just feel like the Corrupted version, after the bug fix, doesn't hold up in comparison to some other secondary options. So finding the right build for it is a little bit more difficult. I don't really think it's worth upgrading. So if you're going to be looking specifically for which weapon you should take as a corrupted version over the base version, and you don't want to chase the original, I think the Nebula would be one that you would want the base version first, and then the secondary corrupted version would be more of a luxury. Now, finally, we are going to get to, in my opinion, what is possibly the worst gun, base or corrupted, in the entire game, and that is the Q gun. The base Q gun is actually not too terrible. I'm just being a bit of a jerk there, but the corrupted version is not for me. I've seen some people using it on higher difficulties, and I understand the appeal of it potentially, but for me, it's just not good enough. It's not one that I would ever use consistently, and I don't enjoy it whatsoever. Again, there's going to be some people. I was running with randoms recently in the last couple days, and I did see someone with a corrupted Q gun. I don't think he was doing all that well. It was an interesting idea. I know what they were trying to do. We were facing off against the boss, and it just was not the way to go for sure. He eventually changed, and so we saw some different stuff from him. But overall, I don't think this weapon is all that great, and every one of these weapons can be usable in the right build. That's what I want to say to everybody. In a game like Remnant 2, you can pretty much build around any weapon that we have in the game with the right modifiers, with the right mutators, with the right builds. You can do a lot with all of this. But if you're just solely basing it on which one should you craft in order and also chase the base version, that's where I wanted to stick to with my rankings. And let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you agree or disagree with my tier list? I think every time I post one of these, I get a lot of back and forth between people. Some will say this is a great tier list, others will say it's terrible, and I'm fine either way. I just like to put my opinion out there and give people an idea on how these might be performing. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button. If you want to see more Remnant 2 content from me, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out tremendously, shows you want to see more content of this nature. My name is JoPa. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.